Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
So, Professor Kobby Mensa, or say no one say NPP for global info analytics for research or more ediaba post or more diabano or more doubt put doubt on such offense post. Now, or shall I say, you can't one of the ono sabi what suya dia never a professor who nim day. Na or share a juma sonwa a year global info analytics for a year ya who say a muda ho papa because in fact for a research team omo go to the extent of publishing the methodology or more at the year offense research no any even the data of the research no it tells you that they believe in what they have done and they are open for any criticism. Unlike Nancy a year NPP for and Prof almost so from outcome dear ben why almost almost say according to our research Dr. Bawumia we need with 53 points or something as microphone methodology a year post no ama or man fa fence and sample size near or man fa a year fence saying what do you call it? The data no anfa and once almost on my post and I say and no crampo na NPP for mu bo say enti professor che say ohun say as a NPP for mu diagro and mu diagro as a mu bodondo na mo ankasa mo san esa as obi asebio meka ne say mununum ho na mo say esre because o kire mu a o hwe de ekoso wo Ghana man mu ha enye obi na wase o ka kire NPP for say ba bia aduno enyoma enkoyi o mo party nim voter apathy ebesi wo Ashanti region ebesi wo Eastern region but ebesi wo NPP mu akasa looking at the way empanyinfo bi ekasa wo Ghana ha ne wo de yenko na yenkotie Professor Kobby Mensa ninsamo a okan the key points to be three so na yensambra mpacho ansa na yebe commercial so be subscribe to PENDREAM TV and o subscribe ewia na wa like video no o like video na boa ma video no kwachi e ma foforo so etumi enya bi ehwe na wa share video na ma foforo so etumi enya bi o hwe na sa wo adwenkyere bi a utumi de to comment section na se yenko na yenko hwe eye video no emra na yemeto a yenko mo no so
even help the party in question going forward?
Well, thank you, Alfred. Let me give you a very simple example. I have never seen any coach who is actually going to play a football match with even the biggest teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona, and would say that we're going to be scored. Nobody does that. I mean, then how do you expect your followers, your supporters, to follow you to the stadium, to support? So it's natural. I mean, the responses from the political parties are natural, all right? Because do you want them to throw their hands in the air and say, we've lost the election? It's never going to happen. They have to pump up their base. They have to energize their base, all right? And so the natural, response that I expect a political party, be it NPP, NDC, CPP, PNC, all right, is to say that, well, this is not a true reflection. All right. So as a pollster, I've done polls myself, even as academic. All right. You're going to send a paper and the reviewer is going to punch holes in it. And you're going to accept it. You have to accept that, holes and then ask yourself whether indeed you have to change it or you have to maintain your position and send them a response and say, no, I think this is right because A, B, C, D, E. All right. So it's a natural reflection of the game that an opposition party a ruling party will reject a verdict that says if elections were to be held today, they're going to lose. So it's a natural reflection. Now, my problem, though, is the way that they try to bastardize, all right, the practice. Remember, in a consolidated democracy, all these things are supposed to be there. You're supposed to have media analysis. You're supposed to have polls. You're supposed to have rallies. You're supposed to have all these things are activities of politics within a political system, a very functional political system. So in our attempt to debunk so that we can energize our base. Let us not try to paint it in a manner that people would, because what we do as leaders is what the people actually watch, all right, and then they follow. So for me, I always say that if you have any criticisms for things like that, don't do it in a manner that people would, have no confidence in it. And then, of course, you destroy the system, all right? We must encourage it. And I really, really like it because, look, over the period, we had Uncle Ben who's been doing it, And then, of course, at some point, we came in with the IPO. And then Musa came in with this one. And it's been consistent. Do you know how much it cost to do this? It's a lot of money, a lot of resources, a lot of commitment, all right? But the expectation of the people is crucial. People want to know. People want to have a feel of, hey, how is it going to happen, in December? And that's why we do these polls. The polls, the purposes for the polls, so many, for different, stakeholders. I've had, companies, those days when I was doing IPO, I had companies from England that would actually send me an email to ask about the pulse of the people, all right? Because they want to make an investment decision. Because they want to, even with tourism, people want to come into the country at certain places. So there are quite a number of stakeholders who actually rely on this information, for their purposes. It's not only for politicians,
Indeed.
all right? So when we're actually speaking about them, we have to be mindful. And my problem is that you hear polls from organizations like Outcome International. I mean, go and check who is Outcome International. There is none. There's no such viable or credible institution. Yet you have NPP, leaders who would actually hold on to such polls and speak highly of it because a certain Outcome International says Bawumia will win. And you have Musa Dankwa, who is actually here, who has published the methodology.
But
has
what is
published,
Outcome International?
I don't even know. They did a poll and put Bawumia winning. I don't know. Oh no, I hope you saw that poll. All right. They didn't publish the methodology. They didn't publish their questions. They just said that Bawumia is winning by some 50-something%. And they were speaking about it. They were speaking on radio. I mean, respectable platforms published it. All right. And they were happy with that. You have someone who had actually published a poll and published the methodology, published the the questions for transparency's sake, and then for perhaps repetition if somebody wants to do that. To some point, I mean, we even publish the data itself that people can actually use it to analyze. I remember there was a time we published the data and Franklin called me and I said, oh, the data is online. You can actually get the data. And he was like, wow, really? Because some polls and most polls don't even publish their data. All right? Yet you have the politicians bastardizing it. And when they talk about, oh, we have a problem with the methodology, which part of the methodology do you have a problem with? And they're not saying anything. So for me, I think that we have to be mindful that these are systems that we need to build. In fact, we need to encourage a lot of people to publish, to do polls. Maybe people can come and learn from Musa how to do polls. Because the political party, when they do their polls, they're not going to publish it because it's for their use, all right? But polls like Musa's would be for public consumption. So we need quite a lot of people to go into such practice so that at least we can have variation within our political system. We shouldn't actually...
but for political marketing purpose, 8 months you would say obviously is not long enough.
Of course, but you see, in political marketing, the political communication, we have what we call intensity, all right? Now, you realize that towards the elections, you're going to have quite a lot of activities. Even you're going to change your programming. Indeed. You're going to have more time for politics other than agric or social issues, all right? So that level of intensity heightens the interest of people. So those who are even saying they're not going to vote, they're likely to change their minds because of the level of intensity, all right? Now, you're going to have political songs developed. And in our system, it's very funny, but look, some songs, political songs, can change somebody's intention, to vote.
The campaign songs.
The campaign songs. I'm telling you. And Honorable was talking about if you interview somebody today, he's not going to vote for them. Tomorrow he's going to vote. People, inducement, all right? Even a call from a brother from the US or UK to say, you have to vote this way, will change their minds of voting. So there are quite a lot of interventions, quite a lot of things that will get people to the polls. Most of the time, we get people, we are not going to vote. By the time we finish the election, we are like 83%. All right. Unlike in the UK or elsewhere, where turnout is like 34%, whatever, because people aren't bothered. All right. But in our situation, our conditions are such that people become disappointed. But towards the election period, they realize, if I don't go to the polls, X person is going to win, and I don't want them to win. All right. They rush there. They're getting calls from relatives to say you have to vote. They're getting these, inducement, political songs. People are chanting. People are going on, floats, etc. It charges the atmosphere, and so it takes away that apathy level. Of course, when it comes to apathy, which usually comes from the ruling side, because usually they've put their faith in the administration,
and we saw that reflected.
Exactly, they're giving you. A resounding victory, like what happened to NDC in 2016. The apathy from voter rate was massive. And usually, when you have prominent people speaking into it, it then energizes. You see, sometimes the ordinary voter might take a decision, they're not sure, whether that decision is correct. They look at, figures, public figures, and their position. And I think that, and I must say this, when in 2016 the chief Kobby spoke about the NDC situation when they said that they have done little, that nailed the apathy. Because people are listening to certain public figures, certain prominent personalities, and thinking, what I'm thinking, is that right? Are they also thinking the same? So when they speak to it, it nails it. And that's why Alan Chamanson's exit, all right, and certain prominent people in Ashanti region speaking against the government can actually deepen the apathy and then get people.
But the NPP has been very consistent that Alan Chamanting is very insignificant to the fortunes of the party going into the elections. And, well, it's interesting the outcome of the poll, because that's to the contrary.
That's for the public, but for them, I'm sure, I wouldn't be surprised that there's a conversations going.
About Alan Chamanting and the impact of his exit.
They appreciate the enormity of his exit. In the public, and I said to you, there is no way very, very, a good politician will come out to say that, Alan's exit would affect us. No. I mean, when they love their party, they won't do that. All right? They would say all that they want to say, although sometimes some of the language is not palatable. I wish they could say it differently for people not to really take it negatively. But the impact is huge, and they recognize the impact. In public, they will not admit it, and they will say, it's not going to have any impact. Of course, barring the insult and all those unsavory remarks, I want to believe that it is the right thing to do in politics, because you do not want your base to be disappointed. And so you always have to rally them around and say he won't have any impact. But definitely they know that he's having impact on them.
Does Alan Chamanting's exit give you a sleepless night, or he's not going to cause any issues for you?
Well, I think that in politics, every addition or subtraction means something. Even he as an individual exiting means something to the party.
But you have maintained that he's,
but of course,
insignificant.
Oh, of course, once you lose a vote or an influencer in your party, you take steps to see how you can reduce the effect of that influencer leaving you. You cannot say that because Alan Chamanting has left, NPP cannot win an election.
I see.
We definitely have to take steps that will help us win the election without him.
Well, that's actually what's reflected in the poll. You see that Alan Chamanting also making some good inroads in there as well. Let me bring in lawyer Martin Pebu. Does the outcome...
So, Professor Kobby Mensa Nanumu and some any Akofa Afri TV3, the key points show no so any the Abraham. In fact, someone to say the Prof as he can in some. In fact, NPP for me yako say I say more boat muankasa mudundu na mosa. Wankasa wanu kwana nchine chum na wo come for say we are near there. What I say moma money emra mo so because the econo biara o Ghana hanim say enyoma agiagu. That is what Prof is saying. Voter apathy ebekam mumpo. How on earth can you sit down and say NPP Alan Tremantia ofri mo no affect NPP amanyoku no? How on earth? Enti mo ankasa mo hwe NPP amanyoku na any mo flagbearer reason and say mo call ye last year mo November mo call ye ya. Enti mo hwe the crop of people na contesting Dr. Bawumia na. Are you people assured say the outcome of the results you are okay with it? Obi went me and clock is 70%. Leader in your own party, you couldn't clock 70%. Went me and clock is 70%. Now somebody or no crumple be a name say no. Said you on shed down bear who cratches say or no crowd can't be a Kennedy at Japan. Now would be free back over 30%. And now be catch and say wo no say hey massa look the AC wo NPP mo no man fa ni agro Dr. FN say Alan Kojo Chinamanten a wa free NPP no so omutwu time e be affect party no look ene onipa biara ni buafu e wo NPP mo disappointed NPP for nyina no they will go and vote for FN Alan Chinamanten. The 6 million people who voted for the NDC John Dramani Mahama in 2020, none of them will go and vote for Alan Chinamanten. None of them will go and vote for Dr. Bawumia. You understand? None of them will go and vote for Eye Cheddar. Because those people are people who compared both administrations from 2012 to 2016 and then 2017 to 2020. What I say, they are going to those people compared those FNs and years, and I say regimes, and normally two aba. And so more compare there, then comparison there in the bachelor, you share FN saying Juma dia Mahama Bidi, any dear Akufado Ebidi here. Ghana for to a bachelor say a NDC for Mahama and a born home modern. To Abama Mahama winning election no and Uncle Fuchin NDC for answer a J about one or money Supreme Court for come with the boom at this Anya Maransamono Kruma enti near a person near at the fofro at I say and yet at the fofro a idea Ghana Nibianim ha a idea that a plane ha enti and ne say Omanpenyini John Dramani Mahama no aye say ba na empo enye Akufo-Addo na sebe ono ebedi ntro DJ aba no na so chinchim Ghana fonsa ediji aba no free eye Mahama nsam in 2020 election na eye Mahmoud Bawumia Ghana ha ukogogo krabo the biggest liar in Africa ono na ndin ba na then the say such a person can win over Mahama. Mahama 6 million votes no it will rather appreciate what I say because from 2017 to 2021 share NPP for more than one or mobile boy na me can say edumpo ye a change from 2020 to 2024 year we say crowd a bonkon enya kra a bonkon enti no utwumu time your vote will depreciate. What I say, your vote will depreciate, and when those votes depreciate, ebi ebeko Mahama nchen, ebi beko Alan Chinamanten nchen, ebi beko other independent candidates nchen. Enti no Ghana for moma yani na ho obi biara we Ghana ni a wutie mi wo hwe me ma wani na ho 2024 elections ne de December 7th from any kwan say Ghana ni bia didi agro. I was said you're taking it serious because there is no way NPP can be able to win these elections. And I've always been telling the NDC for instance, you shouldn't be complacent. In 2020 you won the elections, but with negligence mu lose elections because my mama nyanya dey and how mo fee say mo wie and I'm not as man for no farm ho and no win elections. This time it shouldn't happen. This time it should be boot for boot. This time, like, you should meet them squarely. Whatever NPP will do, meet them squarely. Said the Abeya Mobi to me, Aje Ghana, everyone, some na Abuama Ghana to me, Afanem, to my pa Ide, Efra. Aha, a PENDREAM TV vessel, so subscribe to the channel, and Uba pet no subscribe to the channel. No, now I like video, no like video, no quite my for so it me enyabi ehwe. Na wa boyen, na wa subscribe to the channel, na wa share video, no so am for saka. Na wa adwinchire bi a wo de to comment section no ase ede amayen. PENDREAM TV ese edamu yopo.
Maneva na sema PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo.